Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're episode number 177. Today is September 11th. My name is Craig Perales. Joining me, as always, Manager Montemayor, and still, unfortunately, not at the home base. We're still back in, Batcave B, but, we're here.
Hey, I actually had a question for you. That's why I sent you that meme earlier, and I don't know if you saw it.
Which one?
But, we'll get to it right now. Are you gonna submit yourself to 19 inches of Venom?
19 inches. I don't think I read that one.
You haven't seen any of that stuff? Oh man,
I've been doing this trying to catch up on this all day today.
So. I'll do like a quick thing for us. So, like the Sony Twitter put up a thing to like get ready for all 19 inches of Venom because it's a 19-inch statue, and people are just taking it as like dicks. And so
why wouldn't you?
Everyone's just reacting to it because it's so funny and it's stupid. I think even Colin talked about it like in today's episode when I was watching it. But the meme I sent you is it's like. Sony PR or whatever, and it's a bunch of people trying to stop one guy, and this one dude's going into a mic, and it's like, get ready for 19 inches of Venom, and everyone's like trying to stop like a rogue employee, and it's the funniest thing, dude. It's just like, get ready for 19 inches of Venom. I'm like,
is it for the game like coming out? They're making a statue for Spider-Man 2?
For the Spider-Man 2, and it's a really cool like Venom statue, but it's like the weirdest wording.
Yeah, that's how you get bad PR. I mean, I think it's funny.
Dude, it's so hilarious.
I think it's funny.
Nobody's mad about it. It's just so random from the company that's usually so strict about their messaging and everything. It's the most random thing.
It wouldn't have been on Nintendo. You can guarantee that. So, guys, we wanted to jump in. Last week, we didn't do a full actual episode. I did a 3-hour podcast with the Brothers Take, where there's one episode on their channel, one episode on ours, which is a spoiler cast of Final Fantasy 16. I did it the day after Andrew and I recorded last week. I figured I'd give us a break. I figured there might be time the people at my house took care of the AC, and me and Andrew had this whole conversation off camera right now, and it's still nuts. So unfortunately, we're still running at this one. That was the situation for that. But both those episodes are not only on the YouTube channel, but I also put them on the audio podcast if you guys wanted to listen to that, so that way you had something to listen to. So if you guys are watching the YouTube version of the show, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Social media, you guys can check us out on our Linktree link, which is in the description of the YouTube. And the audio, guys, go ahead and pick your podcast platform of choice, and there you can find all of our episodes. Plus, hopefully we start doing some more spoiler casts and get that kind of stuff out there for you. So, before we dive into the episode, guys, we do What Are You Up To? When Andrew and I take a second to talk about what we've been playing, what we've been watching. But for the last week or so, we've both been playing the same thing, which will be the main topic that we talk about today. So, we'll just talk about what we've been watching. So, my man, what have you been up to in the last week or so?
Because I've been playing that one game, I haven't really watched too much. The one big thing I did watch was The Flash, because they did add that now to HBO Max for any of you guys out there who didn't go see it in theater. I know you and Denny were a lot more sour on it. I actually really liked it.
And that's the thing. That's the most divisive thing, because there's people that I know that absolutely love it, and then there's people out there that think it wasn't what they thought it was going to be, kind of like the game we're going to talk about. But, I mean, teach their own. I mean, it's got excellent parts. Batman, Supergirl, fantastic parts. It's just, for me, The Flash was just annoying and whiny, and just, I'm like, this is the storyline we went with?
See, I think I kind of get that, and maybe it's different, too, because I have brothers and sisters and stuff, so there's a difference between me having been raised, like, as a single, with, like, my single mom, versus I feel like my other brothers act like that other Flashes who grew up with both parents, so I'm like, I totally get that, like, dynamic between the two. But no, I really enjoyed it. And especially after watching it too, and the CGI in that does suck, like, but that didn't take away from anything for me. I like the overall story, and I'm like, you know what, I get it, and I really like this. It sucks that we don't get the animated one, but after thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know how you'd really put something like that on here. You could if you were a capable studio. That I'm fine with what we got, versus them trying to do some endgame end of the world thing and it just being trash. So
yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's like, is it a top 5 DC movie for you? And what's unfortunate is, I mean,
it'd be an easy top 5 to break into.
They're just like, dude, none of the DC movies have broke over like 400 million in like the last like 10. Besides like
the Batman, I think.
Besides, that's DC EU. So like not the Joker and stuff like that. I think the only movies that have done exceptionally well were like Wonder Woman and Aquaman. But other than that, they've all just been kind of falling flat, and Flash is kind of the last one that's going, okay, which I'm happy with the James Gunn reboot's going to be coming out, because I feel like they desperately need to do it. Start with that. It sucks they have to do it again, but it's like,
right,
new cast, and let's get it going.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what I'm like, okay, you know what, for the end of what this is, I like it, and hopefully where we're going in the future is a lot better.
Nice. So yeah, you guys, and that's on HBO, I believe, right?
Yeah, HBO Max. They just added that.
Nice. So what I've been checking out is and it's been catching my eye for since when did it come out? June 28th, and it's this documentary docu-series called Muscles and Mayhem: An Unauthorized Story of the American Gladiators. It's on Netflix. It's 5 episodes long. And it's showing the evolution of the show because I used to watch this as a kid. I was going to ask, did you ever watch American Gladiators?
I've seen
as a
it.
Kid? Okay, because it ran from 1989 to 1996.
I was more of a MXC guy. Don't get eliminated.
Yeah, but that's you wouldn't have had MXC without the American Gladiator, which is I love
two completely different shows.
Yeah, and Ninja Warrior types things like that, right? So this is kind of the spawn, the origin show of that, and it's interesting because I didn't really know how it started. It started off with these 6 originals, and eventually it went into like these 30 different gladiators, and this one mainly focused on like Nitro, Laser, Ice, and Blaze. And then over the 5 episodes, it just talks about how they were kind of comparing it to like wrestling a little bit, but like how these guys had no pay, like all like the drugs and shit they had to do to like just stay out of pain that they were in constantly, all the parties that they were doing, like the steroids, the injuries they would be receiving on these games, and kind of how new people would step in, and they revamped it. But at one point, it was like the highest watched show in America. I mean, this is obviously primetime 90s, so it was going against things like wrestling and things like that, and it was doing really well. And it was just kind of sad to see that some of these guys just got so beat and battered that they never were able to have careers again. It's weird to see that some of these guys were like ex-Olympians in certain sports, and how they were casting people to be not only the gladiators, but like then it kind of shifted to being like it was about watching the contenders coming on and seeing if they could beat them. So I don't know if you got any love in your heart for it, if you've seen the trailer or you're watching it now and you think it looks interesting. It really is really, really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that was on there.
So with that done out of the way, guys, let us know what you've been watching and anything you've been playing. But for now, Andrew and I will get into what we've both been playing, along with a handful of our friends, and that is Starfield. Now, it says Starfield review, but this is kind of more reviewing of what's been happening with it. I know I'm about maybe a little over 22 hours. I got a level 18 or 19 character. I figured, have you beaten it yet, or are you almost done? I know you were farther than I am.
I think I'm like level 35, but I'm at the end of the story. I haven't done the final mission because I didn't want it to restart everything over. So I've done that, and then I've done 2 factions. So I think I still have 2 left, and then maybe some other side missions that I like out there.
What do you mean? If you beat it, it won't let you continue the game? It makes you do like a new game plus?
I've heard that if you beat it, it makes you do new game plus, or there's an option to like stop it. And I didn't want to like accidentally I'm like, whatever, I don't want to mess anything up, so I'm just not going to beat it.
Gotcha. Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know what this is, and it'd be hard-pressed if you're watching the show to not know what it is. Starfield is an action role-playing game developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. It was announced during Bethesda's E3 presentation in 2018. The game takes place in a space-themed setting, and it's the first new intellectual property developed by Bethesda in 25 years, released on September 6th of 2023. So the main thing I kind of wanted to dive into, and just kind of from our point of view of playing, is this game's kind of being surrounded by, I don't know how you would word it correctly, very hit or miss reviews. Either people going extremely sour on it, people giving it, I mean, if you're looking at the thumbnail, depending on which one I pick, people giving it 9s and 10s. I mean, it's hard to find someone in the barometer where it's in the even. I think I happen to maybe more fall into that, but that's kind of a lot what's going on, and we'll dive into it. But I mean, once you started seeing that, I mean, it's weird that this is what everyone's talking about.
Yeah, I've seen more like 9s and 10s from like big outlets. There's a few that I think the lowest I saw was like a 7, but then you have it's getting like review bombed where people are giving it like 1s, and I mean those are just like sour grape people. But I just don't get how you could give it anything lower than a 7. I mean, this game's not terrible
when it should have been fantastic. So yeah, I'm glad you said that first with review bomb, because one of the things it says Starfield is being review bombed, and this is on Game Rant. It's saying Bethesda's newest game, Starfield, is currently being review bombed by users on Metacritic. As the first single-player Bethesda game since Fallout 4 launched in 2015, Starfield has enjoyed a great deal of hype. For some, Starfield lived up to the hype and met their expectations. Others are less enthusiastic about the game, feeling that Starfield falls short of great Bethesda games like of the past, like Skyrim. And I think what a lot of people were thought this game was going to be was kind of a mix between like a Cyberpunk and a Fallout with like No Man's Sky type of traveling. So it's I don't like that anyone would review bomb something just because you didn't like it. But I can understand how they didn't get what they thought they were going to. I mean, now that we've been playing it, is it what you thought it was going to be? Is it what you think Todd Howard and Bethesda promised the game was going to be, or did you get everything you needed out of it?
Yeah, no, I thought so. Like, at no point did I ever expect anyone to ever be like, there's a million different planets and you're going to be able to circle the whole planet and it's going to take you 74 hours to get to here or to there. Like, this game is exactly what I wanted it to be. Like, I don't know why you'd want to go around a whole dead planet anyways, because then people complain like, oh, well, you land on a planet and there's nothing there. And it's like, okay, so now you're complaining that there's nothing on this dead planet when you were just complaining that you want to be able to go around an entire dead planet. So, like, I don't understand your argument. I think you need to pick and choose, one side to stand on.
Well, let me read this real quick, and then we can dive into kind of what we like and dislike. And one of the biggest kind of reviews that were going around, or at least from this, I believe he's a streamer called Nakey Jakey. I've never heard of him, but have you ever heard of him? This is one that I've been seeing kind of catch the rounds, and he explained it like this. 24 hours in an exploration in Starfield is utterly dreadful. You land on a planet, it generates a bunch of locations, most of them like 400 meters away, if not more, and you walk. There is no ship to fly, there is no rover to drive, there is not even a space horse to mount to keep traversal engaging. You mindlessly sprint and boost jump through a soulless field of nothing to reach a copy and pasted destination that very rarely feels worth the effort. This is such a drastic step back from the amazing sense of exploration and wonder that Skyrim and Fallout 4 inspired that it truly baffles me. I want to like this game so bad. Now, I think this is very heavy-handed in what he's saying, but I would be remorse if I said I didn't get what he was saying in terms of, like, when you do land on some of these planets in terms of the exploration. I think a lot of people thought there was just going to be more in it. And I get what you're saying. How many planets of these do you want to run around in? But I think that's what the bill of goods was sold as, of going to this place and going, hey, these worlds might be outer world size, and by it's not as big as Skyrim, but there's going to be something for you to go and do at all of these. And again, when I read the copy and pasted thing, I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure what you mean, because they're supposed to be procedurally generated. But I actually did run into this cave that was the exact same one. And I'm like, well, where is even the differentials in it? It was like literally the same cave. So I do see that point. And we'll get into what we like about it. But I just want to point out, this is kind of what most people are saying is bad about the game. And we can get into some of the UI stuff later. But in a world where it was supposed to be boots on the ground as well as space travel, it just seems like there's not that much to explore. So I don't know, where did you land on that? Do you think there's any truth to what he's saying, or?
I think there's truth to what he's saying if you're one of those people that want to land on every moon, on every planet, on everything. But for the big focus that they did for the story and the places where they did take their time, you could see that. But for how many things that are out there with, there's like a million different planets, did you expect every planet to have its own major city, its own major function, its own whatever? And that's where I'm like, I don't get that they ever communicated to us that that's how it would be, because that's not ever what I was expecting. I expected there to be your main story area, and then there's stuff outside the main story. There's a couple big planets that I have not even been to. I've been there once, and it wasn't even something for main story related, and it's this full big place. Like, there's this one planet called Paradiso. It's like a paradise island. It's like a big luxury and everything like that. I did that for a side quest for my character to get married. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to ever go there as a part of the main story. And that's a fully functioning planet that I never would have gone to had I not gone there for that one specific mission. Again, because I just haven't stumbled upon it, and I'm doing other stuff. And I've seen a few other places like that too. So again, I think that more relates to all the little moons and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm sure there are planets out there that are like that. But again, I'm not landing at every single planet.
Right. So before we move into the good stuff, because I like how we usually ended on the positive notes, the last thing you can't go on without saying is that this game, to a lot of people, is very menu heavy, is very kind of UI cluttered, is very confusing. And you couldn't blame anybody for starting this game and not understanding exactly what to do and how to do it, because I'm still kind of in that boat, because the game doesn't necessarily require you to do a lot of the things that are in the game, such as the space travel aspect and building the ship. It's there and it's doable. And from what I hear, it's a lot of fun once you can figure it out. But a lot of people, that's kind of their main issue is like, yeah, once you figure it out, it kind of seemed like this game, it seemed like it wanted to skip over some tutorials that almost at this point from a lot of the people's response to this game is like almost seemed required, because there's a lot of times where like I've been talking to Andrew and I'm like, well, how do you do the fast travel? How do you do this? And again, once you understand some of the mechanics, the game plays much smoother. Was it a weird decision to not start with things like that? And if they didn't explain it very well.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing too. It took me, like I was telling Craig and I told Gene, I was like, it takes at least like 3 hours before it really clicked for me, and that's me sitting there playing with the menus. I think it wasn't even until later on, and I thought I had the menus down, and I'm flying, I'm doing everything, I'm not spending all my time in the menus anymore, I'm fast traveling, I have no more problems. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm glad I got that figured out. But I didn't even realize that there's a missions tab at the bottom of the menu screen. I'd never seen it, and I don't think it ever asked you to do missions from there the way I was doing it, and I was like, dude, this is a stupid design choice. So I'm opening the menu, going up to the top right, it opens up the planet you're on, or so you can look at planets, your solar system guide, and then you push select, and then from there you can go and do your missions. I was doing it like that for like 3 days.
Yeah, so it is. I mean, again, I don't want to dive too much into this because it's what a lot of people are pointing out. It's just, you've got to say that the game is a little clunky in the beginning, which is weird for other games like Fallout and Skyrim that don't really have those issues. But as far as what's been good about it, you're further than than I am. So what kind of stands out to you about this game? What's one thing? Because I was really into the skill tree. I thought that's actually something new that they did that was actually really cool on how to build your character.
I think that was one of the things I had brought up too, because I don't remember who it was. They're like, I don't know that I care for the skill tree, because the way it works in this one is you can invest a point, like let's say into pistols, but you can't get to tier 2 like you could on the old one where you just pump and dump points. You actually have to
pump and dump.
It'll say kill 30 people with pistols, kill 40 people with pistols, unlock 40 locks, do 10 successfully speech things, travel this far before you can level up the next one. And I like that, because I think that gives you, it kind of forces you to commit to that play, versus whereas before I would always save up my points and then I just dump them all into speech, dump them all into sneak like instantly, and that kind of almost like breaks the game a little bit more.
Yeah, I wanted to point out the main 5 I think are physical, social, communication, science, and tech, I believe.
Yeah.
And so the ones I've been putting a bunch of my points into is I have security, theft, persuasion, stealth, and weightlifting. But when you look at the options, there's 4 I think tiers for each one of those 5, with 5 across all of them in the beginning. So I do like that there is a complete customizable way to start building your character, especially if you want to choose your background in the beginning. We'll kind of start you out with something. But I don't know if you were saying that or we were reading it. Is there no way to respec, or have you not found a way to respec?
I looked it up, and as far as I can tell, there's no way to respec. I feel like that is the biggest downside, especially in an RPG where some of the other stuff, you can't even see what it is until like late. You really have to go there and look, but it's so far away, At 4 points level, for your 16 levels before you can even do anything at the bottom. I'm like, I didn't look at that. Whereas now in like the health one in the bottom right, I didn't know there was an option for rejuvenate until the other day. I'm like, oh, that would be really nice to have outside of combat. And I wish I could respec the stuff I put into stealth, because I'm not stealthing anyone. I'm either fighting them or I'm talking my way out of everything.
Yeah, because I've been stealthing a lot, because when you start building that up, all your early damage is just like triple crit hits. So if you it is that way to play it, but the other thing I wanted to point out is that it does got an interesting cast of characters. I've got about 9 people in my party. I think you said you haven't been recruiting too many on your ship, but no, when I get there, I like.
I've met a bunch out there, and I actually really do like them. I just wasn't sure how it would affect people, and I didn't have a big ship at the time, because you need a bigger ship to hold more people. And I was trying to get that like achievement for maxing out a companion. I just kept Sarah with me the whole time, because I didn't want to mess that up.
So
we had a good thing going.
Yeah, so what else is going good for you in the game? Because I don't want to keep pointing out negative. So someone that's further in the game, I mean, what else would you say to anybody that's on the fence about getting it? That you could say, I mean, it's not you. I think it's kind of unfair that people keep wanting to. I can see why wanting to compare it to Skyrim and Fallout, because it's the predecessors. But this game is not that, so it is. I mean, it is its own thing.
And those games had their own problems too. I mean, Skyrim, how hard is it to get up a mountain, or how many missions are on the top of mountains? You're walking through endless snow or whatever. But I think the main story is good. It really picks up about halfway through, especially kind of towards the end when you kind of figure out what's going on and some of the locations you're going. I actually really like the factions. The two that I've done so far.
Yeah, that's what Denny's been doing too. A lot of the factions. I hear that's good.
There's a Crimson Fleet, and then there's the UC like Marines, and so you can either choose with the Space Pirates or you could be the good guys. But then you have these Freestar Ranger guys that are pretty much like
that's what I've done so far.
Those are the space deputies. I'm really liking that one too. So it just depends on kind of like your style of gameplay. I actually really enjoy the space combat, like flying around and like dogfighting people and stuff.
I'm doing that more because there is a skill you told me to start getting. Piloting, which will start doing your thrusters so you can start getting out of dogfights and barrel rolling and things like that. And the more I've been doing that, the more I'm going out of my way to fight some guys. So yeah, I am having more fun doing that, which is why I'm just kind of frustrated where I'm like, man, I wish there was just an easier way for me to make my own ship. And I'm sure if you want to YouTube it, you can. It's unfortunate that I think that that's what you have to do to get it at least quicker.
Yeah, because otherwise I waited until like later on and I ended up buying a ship. But even when I did and again, this isn't specific to this game. Like even in Fallout 4, I'm not a builder person. I don't like building your own whatever. Like I could care less about that stuff. There's a mission you have to do where you're supposed to like attach these things to your ship, and I'm like, well, I can't get it to like attach. I don't understand where it goes. And then finally, when I'm hovering over it, it goes like green, and I'm like, oh, okay. But even still, for me to find that, I had to go into the menu and then go, and again, because I'd never messed with it because I don't care for it, you have to go to like add ship parts, which I didn't know where it was, and I found it. Look for that random item that you need because it's supposed to take lightning away from you because you're going to like a lightning planet. And it took me a little bit to figure it out, but after that I'm like, man, I can't imagine trying to like build your own ship. The only thing I've done since then is under that same menu is I changed the color of my ship. And even then it's so much because you can sit there and do like every part of your ship that you want to, that I'm just like ship all, and then did the primary, secondary, and third colors, and I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm not doing individuals.
I like that.
But there's lots of people who do want to do that stuff. I've seen people create like the vehicles from like Halo. They've done Star Wars vehicles. I saw someone earlier made the Planet Express from like Futurama as their ship. So there is like a lot you could do. There's so much there. It's just it's not for me though.
Apologies if you see me keep wiping my eyes. I forgot to turn the fan off and it keeps kind of like hitting me in the eye. But what I wanted to point out, and I think is going to be, I don't want to say what it's going to be resting its laurels on, but Starfield, like one of the biggest things people keep saying is like, you know what, when the modders can start doing things, this game's really going to turn into something completely different. There are people showing that like there's already guys getting Star Wars things ready and, you know, Battlestar Galactica things ready. So when these worlds that right now don't have anything on them, they're almost like they're going to leave it. Like, and again, they do this a lot in Skyrim. They do this a lot in Fallout. They let the community kind of take over and implant things. So I don't know how much that's going to affect us console players, but on PC, I can see this game in a year from now being completely unrecognizable from what it is now, which I do want to point out, the game's not broken by any means. No, I would just think that if you were to compare it to those other games, on its surface, it would be not only bland when you're going to the worlds, because there is no real point to go travel way over here to go find it when you can just fast travel with your ship, versus versus exploration in Fallout and Skyrim. And I just want to say, if on what you think, if this is gonna hurt Bethesda moving forward, or at least Xbox in terms of its leadership, because you look at this year earlier and you had Tango drop an awesome game, which was Hi-Fi Rush. A lot of people, I'd argue, would give that game a 9 or 10. But then now moving forward, right, because Hi-Fi Rush really wasn't under Xbox's leadership. That game was pretty much done. However, Arcane's game Redfall was, and that game came out extremely underwhelming, and that game was a tad broken. And now you have Bethesda, which is the head honcho, dropping, which, again, some people could say a great game, some people would say, you know, a fantastic game, but on average, when you see outlets giving it a 7 or 8, it's a decent game, or a good game at best. Do you think they're moving in the right direction? Is there a way to recourse from this, or is this just a small hit that this game just wasn't for everybody? Because you look at open world action games like Elden Ring and the new Zelda, and no one's arguing about those being open and bland. But again, though, this is a space traveling game that I think a lot of people thought were going to be traveling planets, and it's really focusing on quest building. I
think people are just hating to hate, and I think that they're going to be perfectly fine. They don't need to do anything, especially too because this game was in development far before Microsoft bought them. Same with Redfall, so I don't know if I'd really put that
Again, it's not one thing for Xbox to be happy about.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they are perfectly fine with this game. This game is doing great numbers. We've already seen that. And even as far as the people who just took the Game Pass and upgraded early with the $30, I think even that was like over like 1 million people or like 2 million people. So it's like, okay, the game's already doing fine. It's doing good numbers. And it's not a bad game by any means. I know you keep saying that, and I think it's a sad game.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm saying it's a game that when you look at everyone's complaints, there shouldn't have been this many complaints on this game. But I'm not saying it's not playable and it's not fun and it's not enjoyable. I just think coming out the gate, it wasn't what people wanted, and you're seeing more reactionary videos being disappointed by it than being excited by it.
I was gonna say too. I wonder too if like that's the thing is people keep comparing it to the other stuff like No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk. Those games were broken when they first came out. Cyberpunk we played and we had to find time with it. For a lot of people, it's unplayable. No Man's Sky famously got like a 4. Like that game was completely not what was sold at launch, and now it's sad to see people, oh man, this game's great. It's got nothing on No Man's Sky. It's like, bro, like don't try to be like revisionist history. No Man's Sky was trash when it first came out. And I do have like just a couple quick notes here.
Yeah, point out anything you want, any hints, any tips, anything to bring people on for playing it, because I want to hear more positive. I haven't been running into them, I think, as much as anyone that's further in the game would be.
I'll end on a couple positives. I just wanted to bring up, because Metacritic is usually the big thing that everyone uses to gauge this. This game's currently sitting in an 86 on Metacritic. So I just want to throw out some other exclusive games that are out there to put it really into perspective for people. Final Fantasy 16 an 87 on Metacritic, 1 point higher. Final Fantasy 7 Remake an 87 on Metacritic. Spider-Man that just came out, 87. Miles Morales, 85. Horizon, an 89 and an 88. Days Gone was a 71. Both The Last of Us are in 90s. Everybody knows that. Starfield, again, sitting in an 86. So it's not like this game is sitting at a 70. This game is 1 to 2 points off of these other games that people are loving. So I think it definitely is either your mindset going into it. And I know there are a lot of people soured that this was made an exclusive. But I definitely think you need to get in there and try it for yourself. Again, give it at least 3 hours. You shouldn't have to play with the menus, but I think after you do, because I know that was your tune at the start, and I told you, I was like, I know you shouldn't have to. I know that you should not have to. But get in there, play with it, just give it a chance. Once you figure it out, you're going to feel that click, and tell me how much better it was for you once it did.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's much more enjoyable to be playing. I'm curious, do you think IGN really had a lot to do with it, with them giving it a 7? Do you think if IGN would have given it an 8, we'd even be having this controversial conversation? Because if the average person was giving it an 8, they don't know if anybody would be poking holes at it. But when you want to start looking at a 7 and then try to, drown it to maybe a 6, it's like, well, now people are looking for all the issues.
I hated seeing all the scores on there, and I wonder if that, I feel like that kind of did play a part into it, because then you see people like, oh, IGN's a joke. Who goes to IGN for anything? But as soon as it gave it a 7, oh, IGN this game is trash, blah, blah, blah. But then you look at IGN Italy, gave it a 10. IGN Japan gave this game a 10. So it's like, okay, well, what version of IGN am I supposed to be looking at here? You have different people that rated different games. And the person who rated this game gave Fallout 4 a 9.5. I thought Fallout 4 was boring as hell. Like, I don't even think you ended up playing it, right?
I got to the point you had to make the outpost, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, so again, that was one of those controversial games that got a better score when it should have been worse off, where I feel like this is the opposite. Because I don't know what... there's just so much here, and I think this does far more than Zelda did for Zelda to get a 10 and this is a 7. But again, it's up to different people. I don't even think a 7's bad, and if you were expecting this game a 10, I don't think it needed to be a 10. I think maybe people just overhyped it. And if you consider 7 a bad game, then, I mean, that's on you. I think that's crazy.
I think 7's still a very playable game. I'm just curious now if you think, because I think everyone was definitely shooing this game as Game of the Year. It was going to be in the top 5. Do you think it still has that chance when there's so many good games that came out earlier this year that were solid 9s across everyone's board, and then we still have a couple of good bangers still to come out at the end of the year? I think Starfield missed its shot.
I think this game will for sure be nominated. Quote me right here. This game is... I don't think it's...
If it gets nominated, then you have to vote for it this year.
I don't think that it's going to win. That's for sure. But it's for sure going to be nominated for Game of the Year.
Nice. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I kind of wanted to more focus on the controversy. If there's anything else on tips or tricks you want to tell anybody, go for it.
I mean, realistically, if you're having that hard of a time trying to start it, I'd get out there and maybe watch a couple of those, because I did two. Even I had already been playing for a few days. It popped up in my YouTube feed. Tons of people have them. IGN, I think, like Games Radar, like 15 tips and tricks to do at the start, because some of that explains some things I didn't know, like how he told you to make sure you buy the jetpack, because it doesn't tell you to buy the jetpack for the skill, and how to upgrade points. So definitely get out there and watch one of those, because it's not going to ruin the story for you, and that might give you kind of a leg up into starting the game.
Yeah, because I think if your mindset is not Skyrim or Fallout in space, then you're going to have a whole different concept going into this game, and it might just hit you a whole different way. Because I think that's what a lot of other people's issue has been so far. So, was there anything else on Starfield you wanted to point out? Or
Nah,
alrighty. So, man,
I'm loving it.
There you go. We actually went deep on that. So, the next thing, guys, I wanted to bring up was that Sony is raising the PlayStation Plus prices by close to $40 a year per tier. Now, PlayStation Plus, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is essentially what, and I don't like using that, they're kind of calling it PlayStation's Game Pass, which it really isn't, but this is what it says real quick on raising its prices. It says, Sony is raising the price of its PlayStation Plus subscription next month. The service's annual essential plan will go from $60 to $80, the extra plan will go from $100 to $135, and the premium plan from $120 to $160. The new pricing goes into effect starting September 6th. If you are currently subscribed to PlayStation Plus, Sony says the price increase won't take effect until your next renewal date or after November 6th. However, if you make any changes to your subscription, such as upgrades, downgrades, or buying additional time, you'll have to pay the new rate. Sony says the price hike will go into effect globally and will allow the company to continue bringing high-quality games and value-added benefits to the service. It adds that the yearly plans will still come out at a discounted rate as opposed to the 1 or 3 month subscriptions that it offers. So it's noteworthy to point out that PlayStation Plus in its tiers, because it used to be just the one, which pretty much you needed to be online, and then last year they split it into the 3 tiers, and the 3 tiers kind of separated like this. Essential was kind of what it always was. Would give you monthly games, online multiplayer, exclusive discounts, content, cloud storage, share play, as well as game help. The extra tier adds on a game catalog and a Ubisoft Plus Classics, and the premium tier adds Classics catalog, game trials, and cloud streaming. So, me and CN were linked on PlayStations the way Andrew and I are on Xboxes. So we were using the premium, and mine actually, and I wish I would have saw this sooner, because if you would have bought it before, you could have, people were stacking their years, and I missed the opportunity. So, I'm not sure where I want to go with it, because I don't know if I'm playing PlayStation that much that it's going to require it. But when I looked at it, I was using all the perks of premium when I was beating games. The games I was knocking out were Detroit Become Human, Until Dawn, Infamous, and all that, I believe, is on the Classics catalog. So I'm just curious of why you would raise this up that high this fast, especially when a lot of people, when you're compared to the Game Pass and you're getting Starfield day and date, when this doesn't really do that. It adds kind of backlog games. So anyone that hasn't beaten Horizon Zero Dawn or never played it, it'll give you that game for free. But it's like a lot of people that are going to be interested in this have already played that game. So, and it's notable to note that they've had a lot of bad months where like the games coming out that you would get aren't really that good. So I don't know. We don't have to talk about this too long, but I'm curious of like, why would you raise it that much that fast? Especially when the PlayStation 5 is doing great. It's actually tracking better than the PS4 was, and this is during a time of hardware constraints and not being able to find all the pieces, so there's more PS5s. You would imagine that they would wait for there's more people to get on the service, and then in 2 years, maybe raise it up. I can't really see why they would do it almost a year to the day.
I hope, in my hopes, I hope it's not like just typical like arrogant Sony, like, hey, we're in first, we're already killing it. Who cares? People are going to pay this anyway, so let's just do it. And what ideally I hope is happening is maybe they do have some big change coming to it, or like, hey, you know what? I know we've been slacking on these games, so we're going to do this to make it better. More, I don't want to say to compete with Game Pass, because they don't need to.
Right.
But there is something out there that is like that, and maybe they're saving that for the next State of Play or something like that. And like, so they'd rather get the bad news out of the way that, hey, we're going to raise it, and blah, 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 blah. We'll eat the shit sandwich for a little bit, but at the next State of Play, you're going to understand why, because this is what's going to be happening. This is going to be what's coming.
Yeah, I know a lot of people look at the tiers and people get upset that like cloud storage is still locked behind something that you have to pay for. Cloud streaming is still something it's locked behind something you have to pay for. And I mean, to each their own. They've said the tiers. They announced what it's going to be. I just think it's weird that in a year they raise it up that quick and that fast. But I'll probably, depending on what CN wants to do, I'll probably stick with premium just because I mean that's what I was using it. And it's fair to say that even with these prices going up. I think I forget where I saw they did the math. It still comes out to being cheaper than paying for Game Pass, which is $16.99 a month. So you're still actually paying less to get the service. It's just that it jumps so fast. Everyone's like, well, you know what? It kind of made people reassess. They're like, well, I'm not really playing that much with it. Maybe I will go down a tier.
I think it is funny that they did it up so fast when it's something people were already talking shit about. And I do see the people, they're like, oh, well, it's so cheaper than Game Pass. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to compare, then do a fair comparison. Here's how many games and things I'm getting with Game Pass. What do you get with your PlayStation Plus? You can play Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, and some old PS games that are on their catalog that are busted.
Have fun playing Toomba while I'm playing Starfield.
Yeah, there you go. So I don't know if there's really too much more to say. I have it. It's definitely affecting me, but for someone that's on the Game Pass constantly or playing Nintendo Switch, it really doesn't matter to you guys. But it is, if you did plan on getting one, just know that service is hopping up, and it started a couple days ago. So let's move in, guys, to questions of the week. Now, guys, if you have questions that you want to ask us on the show, you can do so a couple of different ways. You can email us at lastcallproductions@gmail.com. You guys can put them on the bottom of our YouTube show at the end of every episode. We can find them there. Or you can find me at Craig Perales on social media, and I can take them there. And the first question comes from Jenny S., and she writes, did you see Megan Fox is voicing a character in MK1?
Sure did.
Yeah, any thoughts? Yeah, and I think you sent it to me, and I was kind of interested. I'm like, okay, well, what's going on with this? So this comes
from a cool little thing.
Yeah, this comes from IGN. If you're watching the video, I'm sure you're watching it places. Now, is it Nitaria? Nitaria is joining Mortal Kombat 1, and she's played by Megan Fox. Megan Fox is the voice of the vampire Nitaria in the upcoming Mortal Kombat 1, and NetherRealm Studios has shared a new trailer to unveil the roster's latest playable fighter. Nitaria hails from the dark, desolate realm of Vitarnus, and she's joining the fight in Mortal Kombat 1 to protect her race of vampires. In combat, she uses her claws, fangs, and aerial abilities. You can check out the new fighter and the action in the trailer below. Now, I didn't know, you know way more Mortal Kombat than I did. I didn't know if Nitaria is a new character or she's an old character, but why so late that they're showing a character? Because they have a bunch of cool people come to Mortal Kombat 1. Why be one of the last ones be a Megan Fox character? Because this game comes out
next week.
Yeah, like in the 14th or something like that. Like
it's the 15th if you get it early,
yeah.
And then it's the 19th originally.
So tell me about the character, if she's new or old, and then does Megan Fox move the needle for it all in terms of coolness?
Nitaria is an old character. I think she's first in Deadly Alliance, and I think the last one she's in is Armageddon, where that had like every single Mortal Kombat character. I've always thought she was like a cool character and a cool design that like fit well, that I'm kind of excited to see her come back, because I like what they're doing with a lot of these characters, especially with like their little bios and stuff for this one, because it really is like a complete reboot, revamp. As far as Megan Fox goes, it don't really move the needle for me that it's Megan Fox, but when you're listening to it, it at least is good, because Ronda Rousey's Sonya was terrible.
Yeah.
So Megan Fox, one, already sounds so much better, but they even showed off, I think, with this too, that they got Jean-Claude Van Damme's likeness finally, and so they can use that for Johnny Cage, and they even have him voicing some lines and hearing them. I'm like, it doesn't sound as good as I would want it to, because I'm so used to the typical, American bravado Hollywood Johnny Cage. But I'm like, that's cool, and that still would have been cool back in 1993 when this came out, or 5.
He sounds more like Colonel Guile.
Yeah,
from the movie,
where he's got like a mouthful of peanut butter. But no, it actually did not sound as bad as that. Like, it actually sounded good and very fluent. So I liked it.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they're adding that particular character. I mean, I don't know why you're ending showing off the characters with someone like Megan Fox. I don't think any diehard fan is going to go, oh, cool, she's doing this character. But, I mean, it seems like they're really going all out with this one and trying to get some, like, as many characters. Because, I mean, I'm assuming her storyline is going to be different from Deadly Alliance, right? Because now it's the MK1 world.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people's are, too. Because, I mean, even Reptile before is, like, trying to save his race. Whereas in this one, he's an outcast from Earth, and he's shunned because he is that I forget what his race is called, but within his own race, because he can shapeshift into a human, that makes him a freak to his own race, so his own race kind of hates him too. So it's like, oh man, that sounds so cool.
That sounds dope. Yeah, I can't wait to play that in a couple days here. And the final question comes from Drexen, and they write, how do you guys feel about pre-ordering games or buying deluxe editions for a week of early play? Does it really matter, or is this a good idea? Why don't you go ahead and start?
I'll say this is like a big trend. I think some other sports games have done this, but I don't know because we don't do too many. We already started this last year when we got Modern Warfare 2 early for the $100 edition. I think we're going to do that again this year because you get the campaign a week early, which was nice because then you can clear all that up, get your achievements, do everything you want to do before you do the multiplayer, excuse me. Yeah. Starfield, we did the upgrade early edition. Again, that only cost us $30 because the game was free, but that was nice to get the game a whole week early, so I kind of like that depending on where it goes. Mortal Kombat, I wouldn't do it because I mainly play that for the story, and it's like $100 for the edition that gives you that, and I'm like, no, I'm out on that. That's kind of where I draw the line.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends. It depends because it's game by game. Call of Duty, I play a ton of Call of Duty. The $100 is a drop in the bucket for me.
Yeah, I think it's cool because, I mean, if you're watching any influencers or people that review them, they got it early anyway, so it's kind of cool if you're trying to be a player, like, playing as they are and kind of seeing some of the early access stuff. One of the cool things it does, though, or it can kind of shoot you in the foot, is when you're watching people do it, or you're playing it earlier, you can go like, oh, Call of Duty, man, this is going to be so awesome. But you could be playing another game, and you're like, and you see, like, let's say if it was Redfall, for instance, and you paid and you got it a week early, you could look at that game and be like, oh, that just saved me a trip, to the store from getting it. But one of the cool things that it also does, especially with Starfield, is you look at a game that's going straight to Game Pass. It's kind of a good way for them to recoup some money on that. They're gonna, because this game, for the average person that's not gonna buy the digital edition with the extra missions and armor packs and things like that, me and Andrew just put $30 into it, and that's us speaking with our wallet on a game that we wanted to test out early and see how it was going to be, highly rated on everybody's anticipation list. So it's kind of a good way to not only get a game like Call of Duty out early, but for a game that maybe most people were never going to buy, put a little money in the coffers for them.
I was going to say, I wonder if that's going to be like the future of like Microsoft Sync. So like whatever the next big Microsoft exclusive is, hey, we have whatever, but if you pay $30 to get their Ultimate Edition, even though it's free on the Game Pass,
it'll be Call of Duty soon enough.
You can play it a week early, and I would do it.
That's a way for them to might go into 2 weeks.
I'll say that's a way for them to definitely to recoup that money and have you paying for a game without you realizing it, thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a smart strategy, and I did because you brought it up early, and I'll kind of end it on this. Of what was going on with early access, especially with Starfield. And this was on the Washington Post, talking about Todd Howard, saying, Howard seems nervous about the reception, but the game appears to be a success so far. During its week of early access with 6 million players, Starfield is already the most played Xbox exclusive game this console generation, according to Xbox. It's the Xbox game on the most wish list ever on Steam Marketplace, and it broke the record for the most pre-installed game since the 2017 start of the Microsoft Games subscription service Xbox Game Pass. Starfield is a milestone in the Microsoft strategy to become a universal gaming platform across various methods of distribution through the cloud, PC, or the Xbox Series consoles. Game Pass, billed as a Netflix-like disruptor service for gaming, last year reported 25 million subscribers, and Starfield is aimed to boost those numbers. So if you think about that in terms of 25 million said subscribers, 6 million, which is almost a quarter of them, paid to have early access
$30 times 6 million?
Play the game a week early. So that just shows you right there how much money they made on a game that people like us, I mean, if it's there, we were never going to buy it because it was free, but 6 million people did a type of version to get early access to play it. So it does show that is a way to make some extra money on something that was just going to be left sitting on the table.
Yeah, and I want to say too, because even on like the Steam, I think you had to pay the full $100 for the edition because it's not a part of the Game Pass, whatever. Every other edition you had to pay the $30, but those people paid a full $100, and it's like, damn.
Nice, yeah. So it's a cool idea, and it's I don't see any issue with it because again, it's your choice. If you want to pay more money to get early access to a game, and again, like Andrew was pointing out, the beauty of it is beat the, because it's mainly should be for online games, beat the campaign or whatever you need to do, and then spend the rest of your time playing online. That way you can get all that stuff out of the way.
Devil's advocate for it, the one negative that I'm going to say about this, though, going forward, is I'm for sure not going to spend $100 for Mortal Kombat. We aren't going to do that. That now my YouTube, I'm going to be like, damn it, I don't want to see the story stuff for the next week. I got to sit here and skip all this shit. Thing, so that's the only like negative I could think of for personally myself.
Yeah, well, cause then is Starfield the only one that did like that $30 upgrade? I mean, why wouldn't Mortal Kombat then do? Oh, because it's not coming to Game Pass then.
It's not any sort of pass.
And then you got to stay off the radar for a week while everyone's uploading videos and spoiling final fight, thumbnail
Mortal Kombat playthrough, and it's gonna be some character that I didn't know was in the game or some death in the story.
So you gotta be very, very careful. But guys, let us know your thoughts down below of what you feel about early access to games and pre-ordering them, as well as Megan Fox becoming Nitana in Mortal Kombat 1. So guys, that is the end of episode 177. Guys, join us next time for episode 178. Until then, guys, my name is Craig Perales. That is Major Montemare. Cheers.
See you out there.